internet is. There you go, really good. Hi everyone. Very happy to be live with Tony Millington. I don't think I was just saying to my husband before I came upstairs for this that it's not Harrogate Crime Festival now unless you've been enveloped in a Tony Millington hug.
That's definite. Yeah, I can go by
that. But we need. So do you want to start us off with an introduction to you and your books?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, as said, my name's Tony Millington, and I write the police procedural crime series, the Ravenswood Crime series. Book one in the series is No Reprieve, which came out a couple of years ago. The second one is Blood Ties, which came out earlier in the year. And the third one, I haven't got it on book, but I've got it on this, which is my T-shirt, done especially for Harrogate this year. And the third one, as you can see, is called Battle Lines. It follows the trials and tribulations of the detectives in the Ravenswood CID, and what follows their stories at bringing down all the unnice people around.
Unnice people, that's a good way of describing it. They've had different titles before though, haven't they? Some of them have been out with a different title.
Yes, unfortunately, I've had some fun and frolics with previous publishers. I'm on the third publisher in about 6 years at the moment. No fault of either of us. The first one, I joined the first one, Britain's next best publisher, soon after I started writing, which was about in 2016-17. And they published the first two books in the series. And then they had the original titles were, for the first book, was this one, On Silent Grief. And the second one was Friends Close, Enemies Closer. Now, we parted ways probably about 2018-ish. I spent about 6 months trying to find a new publisher or an agent that would take me on. And I got sent an email out to another author who is called Louise Mullins. Hi, Louise, if you're here. Who is starting up her own business and her own publishing company, and said that they'll take on all my books, and we're doing great guns. She relisted the first two in the series again, thanks to her. First one came out as that one, Family First, and the second one was Keep Your Friends Close. Unfortunately, that came to an end when the credit crunch hit. Like with many people, the businesses went finished, and she couldn't sustain it anymore. So I took my everything back and went to see if I can find another publisher. Just bear with me a minute, the dog's trying to get in the door. And I got talking to Caroline Cole, as she is now, having got married, and she'd set up hers with her husband, which is called City Stone Publishing, and I'm with her now. And these three books are the result of that. So the third book is seeing light of day for the first time, the third book in the series. And I've got two others that are waiting to be published.
Brilliant. So more to come in the series, which is good to know.
There is, yeah. There's two more that I've definitely done. I'm sending them out for re-editing as we speak to a friend, and I'm in the middle of writing book 6.
Have you got like a set number of the series that you're going to write, or?
No, this is just whenever it takes me fancy, I start my writing. So I didn't even think I'd write one book, never mind having 5 finished and doing my 6th. It was just done as a can I do it type thing. It's one of those that I heard somebody say in an interview when I was in the car, said that everybody's got a book in them. And I thought, yeah, I think I have. Had a few ideas mulling around in my head, and I started writing them down. And this is the outcome of them.
Brilliant. Just making sure people know where to come to ask us questions, because I'm sure there'll be people who've got some for you.
I'm sure there will be.
Introduce us to your kind of 2 main characters then, because they're like sidekicks of each other, aren't they? So tell us a bit about them.
Yeah, when I started writing, I wanted to write with detectives, barely in mind, that have, like everybody's doing, either they've got alcohol problems, got gambling problems, they've got broken marriages or anything like that. So I actually sat down and started thinking about what would I want my detectives to be. And they're both basically family men. They both grew up together. It's Terry Watson and Keith Monteith. They both went to the same school together in Ravenswood. They went to police training college in Hendon together. They both got girlfriends who are now wives. They both at the same time on a night out in town. And basically, like I said, they'd do anything for each other, and they lay down their lives for each other during the business. They've got 2 grown-up families now, both with kids, and everybody gets on with everybody else.
Brilliant. So Sarah
So you
Blackburn,
get to see more.
Go on, carry on.
What's Sarah saying?
Sarah said hello.
So you get to see some. Oh, Sarah says hello. Hi, Sarah. You get to see what the family life's like and how what they're doing in their work impinges on family life. And also you get to see the women behind the men who are just as strong and just as confident as they are. And at times it comes out.
True. They've got quite a I've got quite a few questions about this. Is the place that it's set a real place, or have you just completely made it up?
It's part of Peterborough where I live. I did think about doing one actually in Peterborough, but at the time when I first started writing, about 2016 or so, there were 2 authors I got to know quite well, Tony Ford and Ross Greenwood. And both of them were set their police detective series actually in Peterborough. So I thought 3 is going to be a bit too much for around here, because I was new into this thing, so I didn't know how the ins and outs and how things worked. So I thought, right, no, I'll create my own little place, and there are 2 bits of Peterborough set next to each other. One is called Ravensthorpe, and one is called Westwood, and we've lived in both of them, me and my wife, over the years. So I just amalgamated them and did it as Ravenswood. So it's a fictitious, but it's based loosely on Peterborough.
I'm trying to think.
So
How don't know.
What's that?
I don't know that much about Peterborough. I think I've only ever been to the train station.
Oh, it's quite historic. It's got large cathedral. It's got a cathedral, and Catherine of Aragon is actually buried in there. It's her resting place. So we're dating back towards the 11th, 12th century for when Peterborough started. It may be even further back than that.
With your books as well, you've got sort of other families that are quite important in the area, haven't you? That are not just our main police people.
Yes, it's the unfriendly side of it of Ravensthorpe. Yeah, there are families which the criminal side of them. The first lot you meet in books 1 and 2 are the Russell brothers, who they originally moved into Ravensthorpe or Ravenswood, I mean, about in the 70s, 80s when it was expanding, and through their father, they started to become one of the well-known families, crime-wise, on the Thelwall estate. So when after they moved on, and the brothers moved to more bigger and better things like owning casinos and the like around, a couple of other families turned up who had been living there at the same time, the Andersons and the Claytons, and they're the next ones that come to the fore and come to blows, shall we say, in book 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's basically they've got a turf war going on. They've originally through their fathers had, after the Russells had gone, divided the estate up into 2, one half each. But now things are escalating more, and it's now winner takes all basically they want rid of the competitors.
What made you decide to explore that kind of aspect in the crime thing? Because otherwise they're quite a sort of straight police procedural type book, aren't they? And then you've got like a little bit of a sort of gang undercurrent.
I don't know. It was more of I'm more of what is called the pantser side of writing, right by the seat of my pants. I don't plan anything out, or I didn't at first. So with book 1, I only started by the opening scene, and then I built from there. So I did the opening scene, which, if you've read it, or it's not a spoiler or anything. So somebody gets murdered in a pub car park. So while they're doing that, I brought in the Russell brothers to expand the book at the time, to give the police and Watson and Monty something else to think about while they are dealing with the hunt for the serial killer. So the Russell brothers started off first, but while I was doing that, you've also got in the background, while they're trying to solve the murder in the first book, you got mention of the Claytons and the Andersons, who were sort of like handbags at 6 paces type things, and always up before the courts, and always getting brought into the police for little spats and punch ups between themselves. So you get everybody, all of those are all introduced into the first book, but then it goes through the series as we're going along. So you get to know not only the detectives, but you also get to know the history of all three families throughout the books, the backstories of them, how they became, how they were, and it's going to be a case of who ends up top dog at the end of it.
Do you know who's going to end up top dog at the end of it?
At this present moment in time, yes, I do.
Okay.
But I'm not. It's you've got to wait. You've got to read to wait out and find out.
Fair enough. Donna's also said good evening, both. I've been called
Good
a dinosaur.
Evening. I have read her book, and I'm not going to stand anywhere close to her if she's got anything sharp instruments. After reading her book,
I have a copy of Donna's book, but I've not read it yet. Just because I've been busy reading for the author chats. But I've heard it's quite gruesome in places.
Yeah, it's very good. Yes, which is why I said I'm not standing anywhere close to her if she's having something sharp. But yeah, for a debut, it is very good. I'd highly recommend it.
Sarah also recommends it, so I hope Donna's watching because she's just got 2 nice compliments there.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for being my cohort at Harrogate.
Did you hang out with Sarah at Harrogate? She's great, isn't she?
Yeah, she kept on popping backwards and forwards after going over to speak to other people. So yeah, we bumped into her each other quite a few times. Also with Donna and Sharon. And I'm not going to speak. Can't remember how to pronounce her surname, so I'll just go with Shaz.
I don't know. Seems reasonable. Yeah, I spent a bunch of time with random people that I kept bumping into. It was nice. I think that's the joy of Harrogate, isn't it? That you bump into.
Yeah, how did you find it? It is. How did you find it?
I enjoyed it. It was busy, and I spent like a good amount of time randomly talking about nonsense with people. Had a whole chat about sci-fi with Vaseem Khan that was excellent. But not what you'd expect at a crime writing festival.
No. Yeah, I went and had a look at what Graham Bartlett was doing this year. So he was going on about custody suites and what was happening in there and how he did it. And yeah, it was quite enjoyable in there. It's quite funny.
I saw him at Bradford Literature Festival, and he did a whole like recreation of a trial from Jekyll and Hyde, and that was really good.
All right. Now this one is that he was bringing in people that he'd arrested for different kinds of things. The one that stuck out was a bank robber who tried to rob a bank with a cucumber in a bag. Didn't work out, ran out and went straight into a lamppost while they were picked up.
Oh dear.
And that, according to Graham, is a true story.
Yeah, I'd believe it. I would believe that. Do you find things like that at Harrogate? Because I was going to ask you about your research anyway. Do you find things like that quite helpful? In sort of talking about like the procedures
That's
and
one
things.
thing that's stuck in my brain to actually make you put something in. Yeah, I might put that into a new book. It's whatever comes into my head when I sit down and write. I don't normally write down things to say, yes, I need to follow that up or research that or do that. Like I said, I'm a pantser, so when I sit down at the computer and start to write, I haven't got the foggiest what I'm going to write. It just comes as it comes at the time. So I have a start, a scene at the start of each book that I know that I've got, and then just everything builds from there on inwards. It expands to the fully fledged book. But sometimes I write things down in the books that even surprise me that I actually write it, never mind thought of.
What about the sort of getting the policing bits right though? How do you focus on that?
I've just heard it in the policing bits.
How do you what about getting the policing bits right? How do you make sure you got all your police bits like accurate?
I Google most of them, but now I've got to know Graham a little bit better. I've been on a couple of his lectures that he does online, and I've spoken to him as well to make sure I've got the rankings right at first. Because when I first wrote the first book first, it turns out that the rankings I had for the police were a little bit lower than what they should have been. There should have been more. They should have been up the chain a bit more. So I was calling DSs, which should have been DIs, or DIs, which should have been DCIs, and then following it up the chain. So when it was for the one that I've got now, for no reprieve and all those, I'm losing my picture.
Yeah, you
Everybody
froze
keeps
for a
on
minute.
disappearing.
I think it was.
Yeah, you've been freezing and disappearing.
Oh, my internet's fine. I think it's yours having a bit of a lag behind.
It should be okay. Yeah. But yeah, Graham's been a great help.
Good. So what do you get as your inspiration first? Do you get inspired by like the people, or do you get inspired by like a particular scene to get you going on your next book?
I think it's normally just something that comes into my head. Like I said, the first book, the first thing that came in was the opening series about somebody getting killed. I had to follow one from the first one because the way it was left on the first one, straight on into the second one without actually breaking anything. And then the second book grew from there because I knew what I was thinking. I knew how I was thinking of writing book two at the time. with the Russell brothers coming in, and then it was I was building it on that one. Book 3 came about from the opening scene of Book 3. I don't know whether you read it or not yet.
I haven't yet.
But it's got it in the blurb anyway. Well, it's got it in the blurb anyway that it says that a man's body was found in the boot of a burning car, and that's the thing that I thought of first before I started writing. So I put that down I wrote that out on the computer, and then I built on it from there. So who was this man? I didn't even know who he was or why anybody had done it at the time. So it was built. I just built the story around them finding the body in the car, and then it just grew from there.
Must be hard as well, because if it's in a burning car, you might not necessarily have that much of the body left.
Normally not, no, but with him being in the boot, yeah, there was a bit. They could salvage some stuff, and they took the time at trying to find out who it was. That's the unfortunate person in the back. It's amazing what forensics can come back with in the way of what they can find, even in a wreck like that that's been totally gutted. There's normally something. You might think there's nothing can be left behind, but 9 times out of 10, there's always something there that they can latch onto and work out what the car was and who owned it. So with this one, I found out. I put in that they managed to find there was a piece of paintwork that they could get a sample of, and then they built it around there. They built the case around that.
Sarah's agreeing with you that Graham's a great help for info.
I think it's great help to most people in the way of writing books. He's open to anybody to ask him questions.
I think the joy of that is that, like, there's a lot of people in the group who are quite happy to help, with expertise. I so often see authors popping in with a question and it gets answered.
Yeah, I've had some. I've had some chats with other authors, like I said, with Tony Forder and Ross Greenwood when I first started out. So I had some chats with those two authors, and it was Ross who invited me to a writers' event that was being held in Peterborough. And that's how I managed to get hold of my first publisher, because they were there. But yeah, everybody in the UK Crime CBC Club are very helpful to help each other. If you need any questions answering, then you can always find somebody to help.
Do you go to many author events? Have you got any coming up?
Not normally, no. Harrogate's the main one that I go to. We did have one in Peterborough that was for a couple of years when I first started, but that's fallen by the wayside. So I only really go to Harrogate at the moment.
Fair enough.
I've been to a couple. I've been to a couple of Waterstones locally for local authors that have got books, had books coming out. So I've attended those as well.
Yeah, there's some good ones, isn't there, you can go to. I like going to the local indie stores.
Yeah, we've only got Waterstones in Peterborough at the moment. In the way of books that you can actually try and get your book into. That's the next thing that I'm trying to do. I've actually spoken to the manager there, and she said that she's going to try and get some of copies of my books in there. But other than that, you're having to go outside of Peterborough to other towns and cities. So it's a case of making contact with them and seeing whether they will be whether they can get your book into the stores to sell. But it is a struggle to actually do, because even with the independent ones, they're looking at books that they can sell quite readily, and they can actually make some money back on themselves to actually doing it. It's not like Waterstones at those that whether it's lost leaders or not, I don't know. But I did have a word with one of the bookstores in Bourne, which is just to the north of us. They did take a look at it, but said unfortunately, because the margin between the recommended retail price and the price that they were looking to sell it at was so marginal, they had to turn. They weren't going to take me up on the offer. And I've yet to hear back from two others that I've also had a word with. So it for authors that are either indie based or with small publishers, trying to get your work out there is very hard. If you're with any of the main publishers, then they do all the hard work, and you can see your book wherever it is. But I know other authors that are trying to get their books out, and are trying to do it through themselves, actually meeting people in bookstores and the like, and it's becoming very hard.
Have you tried things like TikTok and stuff? Because that seems to be quite a way of selling books at the moment.
I'm on it, but I don't do anything with it. As I said, I'm on Facebook. I've got a website which needs updating, and I do some stuff on Twitter. But other than that, it's just they're the three main bits of social media that I actually do.
Fair enough. Laura wants to know if you could have a crossover with your detectives and any other fictional detective. Who would it be?
If you're keeping it in and around this area in Peterborough, then yeah, I'll do a crossover with either Tony Forder's ones or Ross Greenwood's ones. But the other one that I'm thinking of is that I've developed a great friendship with an author in America called J.C. Maychek the third, who was he was with Dark Edge Press the same time that I was. And we got to know each other very well. And we've been talking about trying to do something together. His books involve a PI called Jack Slater, but his is set in the 1940s. He's got about 4 or 5 books out with that and everything, and they're very good. So I won't mind teaming up. Maybe not the books, maybe not with the detectives I've got here, but making up a British detective around that area, that time, and then doing something together, doing that.
Yeah, fair enough. Good answers. Do you think you would write anything else in like another genre or another kind of crime novel?
Um, I want to try and see if I can do another crime series, um, because I want to sort of like see if I can spread out, and maybe if I do start another crime series, to put that out to another publisher or an agent who can take it on, and then get it develop it that way. In the way of doing other genres, actually, with JC, um, we've had some good conversations over music and heavy metal and rock metal over the past few weeks. And I've got involved with him to do a charity book, starting in America, which is based on the song titles for Black Sabbath. Um, it's called Symptoms of the Universe, an anthology for Black Sabbath. So there's a lot of authors that have got involved with that, and basically you take the title of one of Black Sabbath's songs and, and write a short story in whatever genre you want, whether it's horror, whether it's crime, whether it's fantasy, or anything else like that, anything that takes your fancy. Um, and then they're putting it all together into one anthology, which is due out in September. So I picked one from the album 13, which is called Loner, and I did a short story about somebody who was a soldier. Um, not saying when. I don't do that, but from the stuff that he's seen and done, he'd rather keep himself to himself and not bother anybody else with it, because he doesn't want anybody else to see or hear what he's got in his head. Um, so he just sticks himself away with his own thoughts. So
Okay, Sarah wants to know who your favourite author is.
we're back.
Did you get the question? Sarah wants to know who your favourite author is.
Sarah wants to know
Who your favourite author is.
I got who my favourite authors are from Sarah. I know my reading has I've been reading. I've read the majority of Ross's books and then Tony Forder's books. I've also read all of JC's books. They've been excellent. I've also started reading Wes's books. Can't remember his surname. The Ray series.
Where's Marking?
Yeah, the Wes Marking books.
You'll know the area they're set in because they're in Harrogate.
Yeah, I read the first three of the Ray series, and if you think that Donna's was a bit um,
I'm just going to try and reload this and see if it helps. Does that help? Can you hear me better now? Let's see. Are you back? Hello? I think we've lost him. Sarah, my favourite author is Terry Pratchett.
Ah, you're back.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, you disappeared for a bit.
I tried to refresh the stream. I was hoping it would work better because you keep freezing.
Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, Wes Markins one. Yeah, they were very good.
I was just saying to Sarah, one of my favourite authors is Terry Pratchett. Well, I was waiting for you
You've
to come
frozen
back.
again.
As we don't have Sam tonight, would you like to answer Sam's favourite question?
Hello. I heard you a little bit there, but not a lot. You're frozen again.
I said, as we you've not got Sam tonight. Would you like to answer Sam's favourite question?
Which is
If there's a Netflix adaptation of your books, who would you play?
who would I play?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to go for one of the Russell brothers because I can't see me as being any of the detectives at all. So I think I'll do good as a Russell brother.
Nice. Be a bit of a villain.
In charge of the casino and anything else they can get their hands on.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good character to play.
Yeah, you're not. You've got a bit of leeway with it how you do it, because if you're one of the detectives, you're stuck in how you can how you can present yourself. But if you're a baddie, you can go hell for leather at anything. You can be menacing through words or actions, and they are very menacing.
They are. My favourite author chat question is: would you make a graphic novel of one of your books?
I wouldn't know how to. You've read a couple of them. Would they make good graphic novels?
Potentially, I think crime does adapt well.
It'll be interesting to see how they would do it, how it would come out. Because I always, when I'm writing things, you always have a picture in your mind about the setting of where they are and when people are talking to each other. So yeah, graphic novel will be quite interesting.
See, I never get a picture in my mind when I read anything, which might be why I like graphic novels.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. When I'm actually writing, I tend to try and picture what I'm writing and the scene and the set, what I'm doing. Don't often do it. It doesn't often happen when I'm actually reading somebody, um, but writing it does.
Cool. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever spoken to anyone who does it, like has that combo of the two.
Well, either writing or the reading part.
Yeah. Yeah, people tend to be one or the other. Like they don't picture things at all, or they're really like almost seeing the TV version in their head.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where it comes from. Is you can see things like as if it's been a TV adaptation is being done, um, and you want to see how it would actually play out on the screen. Um, but I've spoken to um, somebody quite recently, and basically, if you try and get your book adapted for the screen, uh, the majority of the time, what you see on the screen is never like what it's in the book. Because they have screenwriting, somebody saying in the book will probably never appear on the screen. They'll write different. They might have the same storyline or something, but they'll go about it in a completely different way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The majority of the stuff that anybody writes in a novel, um,
Sarah wants to know what's next for you.
uh, uh, what's next is trying to get me again. And then I'm waiting for this the Black Sabbath anthology to come out in September. Hopefully, pre-orders will be out in August, and start plugging that as well.
Fair enough. What would you what the anthology? You know the Black Sabbath anthology you were talking about. Is that raising money for any particular charity or?
Um, yeah, I think it's to do with the homeless children in America. It was due to be with one of the band members before he sadly passed away, and he'd set up a charity to help kids get off the streets, get off drugs, and the like, and put them through school and college again. So I think they're working with that charity or something similar along those lines. But yeah, all proceeds are going to that instead. So
That's cool. Are your books out on audio?
on audio, no, unfortunately not.
Would you be tempted to read them?
We did when the first book came out first time round. We did do an audio book. So at the moment, there's no plans to actually put it out on audio at the moment.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I can have a word.
Yeah, lots of people like an audiobook.
Yeah, and it was done on a separate contract, the audio one. So I don't know how many we sold through that, because when I left my first publisher, I didn't have any contact with them, so I left it at that.
Right, fair enough.
An audio book, I've got 3 out.
You've got about we've got a few minutes left, so do you want to give people a recap of the series and what they're going to go away and buy?
Yeah. It's the Ravenswood crime series, police procedural. The first book is called No Reprieve. Second one will be Blood Ties. And the third one is Battle Lines. All available on Amazon, on Kindle, and I'm trying to get them into all good bookshops.
And my readers, I'm sure, can help with that as well.
Yes, please. Yeah, go and hassle your stones.
Will do. And then all that's left to say is a big thank you.
Thank you. It's been nice talking to you. And thank you for the questions.